Welcome to SoMo Garage, bringing you the latest racing news, sim racing talk, driver chat, and highlights from the SoMo Racing Leagues with SoMo Racing League drivers. Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Get ready for 1 hour of kicking the tires in the SoMo Garage with your hosts, Aaron Reilly and Paul Zotta. SoMo Garage starts right now.
Good evening and welcome to SoMo Garage. I'm Aaron Reilly, along with Joe Mitchell and Paul Zotta. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, man. Sorry about that, but you know how it goes.
Doing all right. How are you guys?
Yeah, not bad. We made it through another week. Got through Pocono, and I think it went pretty well. I mean, for Pocono, what do you guys think?
Well, some of us made it through Pocono. I don't know. My race didn't go all that well. I've been struggling again for the last couple weeks, but it wasn't a bad race. There's only a couple cautions, and I don't know. It was pretty good race in my opinion.
I tell you what, I had the Thursday night race at Pocono in the Lazy Days Racing Cup Series, and that was the most fun I ever had at Pocono in probably 4 or 5 years since we were over at our R Factor. I did a lot of work. Kurt Davidson was helping me out a lot to get back into the groove of things, man. And I finished. You know, I wasn't spectacularly fast, but I had a great car, a great long run car, man. And I wasn't looking forward to Pocono. I was actually going to be gone originally when Pocono ran, and I was kind of happy about that I would miss it. And big surprise, man. I'm kind of psyched up now because, you know, that little bit of advancing and, you know, kind of learning a few more things gives me a better outlook for the rest of the season because I've been having an awful season.
Yeah, you had a pretty good race. I was watching you there, and you know, I think for the most part it was pretty good for me. I ended up racing Tuesday night because I'm terrible at Pocono, and the trucks ran there, and I learned a lot Tuesday night. I wasn't that great in the trucks, but I learned the line, and I implemented it on Thursday night, and it really, really helped me out a lot. And it was nice to be able to run up front and see the front of the line because it hasn't been that way for a while, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't hate Pocono anymore. I'd like to see you know, a few more races and see how it goes and make that decision after that. But you know, we move on, and I think we're gonna hit up some road courses, Watkins Glen this week, so that'll be fun.
Yeah, we were out. What was it? Saturday night. We had a server up for about 2 hours, and a couple guys came out, and it was pretty good. You know, I like Watkins Glen. I usually don't do really, really good there, but I'm very comfortable at the track because I know the track good. You know, it's good when you know where all the turns are and you kind of know where you can get in and get out. So you know, it was a lot of fun. Again, you know, had a little bit of help. Kurt was going over some stuff with me, and I picked up some really good times that I never had before. So if I can just keep it consistent and don't get in any trouble, I'm looking forward to another good race this week, man. And if that happens, hopefully, you know, from going to a point where I felt like giving up to maybe I actually got a shot at a decent finish this year, man, is awesome.
Yeah, I know about giving up, man. I mean, when you get taken out almost every week, or you know, just get caught up in other people's stuff, and you know, you have a way better car than you know what your end result is. It breaks down on you, or if you just don't run good in your case, it makes you want to quit. But you know, you know, we're hanging in there, and hopefully we'll see some results here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, we got a pretty good show coming up tonight. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Adam Baker is going to join us, and we're going to talk with him, and we're going to go from there. So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, we're back here live at SoMo Garage, and Adam Baker joins us, number 48 car. How you doing tonight, Adam?
Pretty good. How are you guys?
Not too bad, man. Well, Adam, listen, you're having a pretty awesome season. You sit second in the point standings in all 3 SoMo Racing series right now. Got to be feeling pretty good, getting closer to this chase.
Yeah, it's definitely great to be so far up in the points. Gotten kind of lucky in a handful of races this year, but definitely showing some strength in all the different series. I really hope to pick up in the Cup Series, maybe grab another win at some point, but definitely a strong season so far. It's been a lot of fun too.
So going into the chase, how do you? What's your mindset going into the chase? Everything resets. Yes, you're going to have some bonus points going in, which is good, but things can turn around so fast in the chase. A couple of bad races can really put you, at that marker where you can, make it to the next segment or not. So is it all about the wins at that point, or is it just keep your car clean and get the best finish you can?
I always, try to aim to get the best finish I can, and if that involves winning, I'm all for it. But yeah, just trying to run up front as much as I can and stay out of trouble. And maybe not push the car as hard as I'd want to if the situation's not right. It's all about making it, to the end of the race and just trying to finish.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I meant. I mean, you got to log laps, you got to finish these races, especially in the chase. It's critical. So, that's awesome, man. I can't remember. We talked to you a while back. Do you run anywhere else besides SoMo?
I was going to start running over in a couple other leagues, but right now it's just SoMo. I was doing an SRA race tonight. It didn't go so well, but I think I'm just really going to focus on SoMo and the rest of the seasons here.
What do you enjoy the best? Do you enjoy racing? Well, do you do some iRacing open stuff too? I would assume.
Yeah, I do mostly the A Fix series. I try and do 1 or 2 races in that a week. I'm pretty close to the top of Division 2 right now, so that's going pretty well for me. I haven't really had a lot of success in Fix series. It's kind of a mixed bag, but I like doing that in the Cup cars. I do like doing road course racing too in the Miatas and Cadillacs, and I recently started to get into IndyCar, so road and oval. Those are a lot of fun. It's definitely different than a Cup car, so I'm just trying to broaden my skills and try out some new tracks and some new cars. But other than that, I also signed up for an SCCA license. I'm trying to do some autocross in real life and take the virtual side of things to reality.
That's pretty awesome. Well, tell me about the competition aspect of it. say racing at SoMo, how is the competition at SoMo compared to racing, say the A fixed races? I mean, is there a big difference in competition, or is it pretty equal?
I think in the A fixed races, it's kind of mixed. Sometimes you'll have guys who are, pro level, or you'll have guys that are really high up in the first division. But then you have people from like Division 6, which you're not really competing with them. You're just um, you're really competing against the people in your division the most. Um, so that's what's different about, I guess, fixed races. But in SoMo, you're really competing against everybody out there. Like our skill levels do vary to an extent, but any week there's like 5 or 10 guys out there that have a shot to win a race, and so that makes it really exciting. You never know exactly what's going to happen or who's going to be really strong at you know a certain track. So that's a lot of fun to go out there, kind of not knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, that, and who you're racing around in, a league, like SoMo, compared to, racing an open race where you could be racing against anybody, somebody you've never raced against before. Perhaps there's people you have raced with several times, but um, you have that little feeling of comfort knowing that going into a league race, okay, well, I know I can race this guy like this, or this guy races me like that. So it kind of makes you feel a little bit better, yeah?
Yeah, definitely more comfortable. You know who to kind of push it next to, or who to kind of take it easy around. Um, there are a lot of guys in AFIX that I race against consistently, but I'm only maybe racing them once a week or once every 2 weeks. So it's kind of hard to remember exactly how they've raced you in the past. Whereas in SoMo, you're racing the same guys 3 nights a week, um, so you know exactly how they raced you the day before. So um, it's definitely a little bit easier to know when to push it and when to hold back, and kind of base your race around who you're racing next to. So
Very cool, man. Do you
Hey,
guys have anything for Adam?
yeah, I just wanted to say, there's one thing we're gonna think about bringing in to the broadcast is kind of getting to know the drivers a little bit, where they're from, where you live, and stuff like that. So if you don't mind sharing, what part of the country are you in?
sure. So I'm in Rochester, New York, right by Lake Ontario. Um, yeah,
Yeah, I've been up
right
there
downtown.
plenty.
Yeah,
And
it's a cool city. Pretty old, historic. I mean, Kodak is here and Xerox. Um, a couple other, like formerly huge companies. But it's a pretty cool place. There's great rivers, some awesome parks, and beautiful scenery and everything. And the buildings are really really cool here because a lot of them are very old. But I like the history of this place. I've grown up here my entire life, so it's where I am right now, and hopefully I'll be able to stick around for a while.
yeah, it's cool that you can get together with guys from all over because we have guys in the league from just about everywhere. You mentioned something earlier to me about Watkins Glen. Are you up there? Are you going up there for the races, or I know you do some racing up there? Or are you trying to get into some real racing up there? Like, what's behind that?
So I'm going up there this week for the Cup race and the Xfinity race this next weekend. But it is only about an hour and a half from me. I've been going there every year since I was, I think, 9. So like 14 or 15 years. Um, so I really love that place. Going there every year is awesome. And I would like to get into racing around there. I try to do some like Miata SCCA events or something. I don't have the car for it right now, or really experience racing in real life, other than a couple years of go karting. But I do hope to get on track there and be able to compete in some events.
Uh,
Um,
yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I know. I believe it is what Ryan Gemmel that races up there every so often.
yeah, he's on an SCCA team. He's just like a spotter, but he helps prep the cars, and he does some stuff with like the video from in car, and he's a spotter on the front stretch up there. Um, so that's pretty cool that I kind of got to see the the back end of things when I went up to visit him a few weeks ago. Um, so that has kind of really inspired me to uh, pursue that and actually, try and get something going while I have time, while I'm still young. And I think Miatas and SCCA racing is a really good way to get into racing, on a budget.
Yeah, I think it's good, man. I see a lot of guys that are into racing here in the league that race outside the league and in life, and it's just pretty cool to see how it's not just sim racing, but it's racing all around. And we've seen some guys go from iRacing into real racing, so you never know, man. Well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
So we got Watkins Glen coming up this week, and yeah, as you said, you really like that racetrack. I mean, how are you there? You raced pretty good there.
I'm not so great in the cup cars. In the practice session the other day, I felt pretty comfortable. It definitely took me a while to get into like the rhythm, um, and I don't know if they've remodeled the track since they repaved it in real life. I don't think they have uh, remodeled it on iRacing, but I've really only driven around the track in real life on the smooth surface, so it's pretty different from what's in game. Um, I love racing there. I'm not the best. I think I'm pretty good in the trucks. Um, I'm okay in the Xfinity cars, but I think I might struggle a little bit more in the Cup cars to keep it straight. They're pretty, volatile there. So
Hmm.
we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I think out of any road course we race at, that's probably my favorite. And I think once you get that feel for that racetrack and you get the rhythm, um, you may not be the fastest car out there, but you're kind of more confident as far as being able to keep it on the racetrack and being able to finish the race without running off. Because I mean, everybody knows you run off the racetrack there. I mean, you're going to put yourself way behind. So, I think what I've learned over the years is if you stay on the racetrack and at least try to stay as consistent as you can, usually 9 times out of 10 you come out of there with a pretty good finish.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like when we raced in the trucks there earlier this season, I was running up in the top 5 or so, and one incident coming around, I think turn 10, I got loose and just like slammed the wall or spun out, which is ironic because that's where I sit every single year and watch the race. But I seem to mess up there the most. Um, but yeah, as long as you can keep it straight, keep it on track without incidents, and be consistent, uh, you don't necessarily have to be the fastest, and it's kind of what I'm trying to do, trying to realize or realizing. But it's just putting that into action and being consistent.
Well, there's going to be some surprises coming up the next couple of weeks because guys that run all 3 series, the truck series is going to road courses, Xfinity's going to road courses. Obviously, the Cup is at Watkins Glen this week, but we have Road America coming up. I believe Road Atlanta, Mid Ohio, and Canadian Tire. And I was talking to one of the guys last night, and I know myself, I think the first time I got back out on, I want to say it was Road America, I went around in first, second gear, just kind of, cruising around easy because I tried to go out crazy. And, man, I didn't know the track. And, you come down a little short shoot and you can't tell if it goes right or left and the way they drop off on the turns and stuff. So, I sent out a message to the guys. I'm going to send out an email that, guys who are looking to be in the chase and, keep their spot or on the bubble, those tracks are coming up. And I know most of the guys aren't familiar. Like, we all know Watkins Glen. I think most of us are pretty decent at the memorization of the track. But when you get to some of these other tracks, man, if you don't put any time in there, that's going to be rough. That's going to be a big eye-opener coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'm sure we'll have a lot to talk about when that comes.
Yeah, that's definitely that's one of those things where if you're good at road courses, you'll definitely excel there. If not, then you're gonna kind of just try to hold your own and keep what points you have going in and coming out, and just try to breeze through those few weeks there. But a lot of changes coming up for sure. I mean, we're used to racing around ovals, so it's definitely that time of year where you have to kind of broaden your horizons a little bit and try to get some road course work done.
And especially on unknown tracks like that, like even when we went to Sonoma just recently, I've been to Sonoma a bunch of times. I know some of it. I don't know that as good as I do Watkins Glen. But man, I got out on Road America. I haven't even been out on Canadian Tire yet, but or Mid Ohio. So I don't, and I'm not really even running in those two series. But still, I mean, if I was, man, I'd be in rough shape because you just don't know where you can hammer it. You're not sure what's coming up next, and there's so many turns, man. You got to get on there, put so much time in, and I got a feeling we're going to see some shake up in the points, man.
Oh yeah, that's definitely that could make or break a lot of people. Luckily for a lot of people running up front in the points, they got a couple of wins under their belts, so it's all right. Just as long as they make it to the chase, and everything kind of resets from there. But yep, definitely a couple interesting weeks coming up.
Yeah.
But Adam, we appreciate you coming on tonight, and definitely looking for some more good things coming out of the 48 camp for the rest of the season, and we wish you the best going into the chase, buddy.
All right, thank you guys.
All righty.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk some NASCAR.
But it's a mystery, and I don't like mysteries. Give me a bellyache, and I got a beauty right now.
CreekFire.com. Muskogee Creek Native American items. Featuring jewelry, clothing, and accessories, arts, crafts, and more. Verified members of Muskogee tribes. Muskogee Creek Native American items. CreekFire.com. Authentic Muskogee Creek Native American items.
I'm afraid what you're describing is schizophrenia.
No, it's not schizophrenia. It's just a voice in my head.
Well, I'll tell you what I think.
This may sound like gibberish to you, but I think I'm in a tragedy.
All right, welcome back to SoMo Garage. Guys, we're ready to talk some NASCAR here. And first thing up on the list is Kyle Busch. He was talking to, I guess, the press, and he was saying that after he reaches 100 wins in the Xfinity Series, he's probably going to pull out of the Xfinity Series and just take his 100 wins and walk away. I believe he's 89 wins deep right now, so he's got 11 more to go. Pretty impressive, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. Just a pretty impressive, over his career, basically over the past, I think since 2003, he started competing in the Xfinity Series. So that's pretty impressive. 89 wins, guys. I mean, the guy's definitely on his game. Does come out with the win today at Pocono, and I'm not a Kyle Busch fan, but man, you can't take his impressive career away from him. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got to see 89 wins. I mean, I know I'm one of the guys that says I'm kind of glad they're going to limit the Cup cars in the Xfinity cars, but when you see a guy win that much, I mean, obviously he's a good driver. He's got those cars figured out pretty good. He's comfortable in them and all. 89 wins since 2003. Going to stop at 100. I heard kind of some of the interview, and some of it is he wants to stop at 100. Some of it is also because of limiting, and he was saying he'll do whatever Joe Gibbs needs if he needs him to come back in and do a race here or there. But it's definitely impressive, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to consider him like all-time great status. I mean, I know he's the all-time leader in wins, but I don't know. He's just something about those cars just suits his style, I guess. And I like it because I'm a Kyle Busch fan and he wins, but I don't like it from the standpoint of I feel like Cup drivers in that series kind of take away from the rising talents in the sport and don't really give a lot of opportunity to other people.
Yeah, that's a great point, Joe. And that's been an ongoing battle for a long time now. And I know a lot of fans over the years have always complained about the Cup Series level coming in there and just basically winning all these races. And it's nice when you don't get a Cup guy in there and you see a new face, getting victory lane. And I think it takes away from that series a little bit and the Truck Series. It's just I think when you've reached a level of the Monster Cup Series, I think that's a level where you need to be at. Unless you decide to withdraw yourself out of that and drop down, kind of like Elliott did a couple of years ago, Elliott Sadler, and compete in the Xfinity Series. Um, I think you need to kind of stick to your series. That's just my opinion, but I do think it takes away from it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's one of the only sports too where you really see that happening. You don't see NFL teams going and playing exhibition games against high school football teams.
Right.
So, it I don't know. I feel like you've worked your whole life to get to the Cup Series. That's what it's all about, and everybody wants to win a championship when you get to that level. And they're not doing that. I don't feel like all their focus is put on the Cup Series. And I think once you make it to that level, there should be a restriction of dropping back down, because obviously your skill and knowledge level is a lot more than a 17 or 18-year-old kid coming up trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, with the reality side of it, because again, just listening to some of the conversations around the whole thing when they were, talking about limiting it and all, sponsorship, fan attendance, it's kind of a sucky thing to have sponsorship held over you to produce. You know what I mean? Where like, if it wasn't a issue of sponsorship with cars or sponsorship with teams, the sponsors want those cars out up front. They know the drivers like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, a couple other NASCAR drivers, Cup drivers that usually go out in the front, Keselowski. They put those cars up there, and it's great for the sponsor. So they kind of, forced the hand on them to have them in those races. And I remember a couple years ago talk about, if you take all of them out of the Xfinity Series, they're afraid the Xfinity Series would fall to the ground because no one really wants to come and watch these guys. But if you watch some of these guys in the Xfinity Series now, I mean, you got some guys in the next couple of years, when the rides open up in the Cup Series, I mean, these guys are going to perform. They're performing now. They're young guys, and they're doing great, So I don't know, but it's just in my opinion, I think a lot of it has to do, coming back down to the almighty dollar, man. Not wanting to lose sponsorship, obviously attendance in the, in the tracks and all like that.
Yeah, and that's another great point. I mean, it is driven by money, and you put a top level tier Cup driver in a top level Xfinity car, and they're going to get the job done, unless something crazy, unless they wreck or get involved in a wreck or something like that. That's almost a guaranteed win, and that's of course what the owners want to see, and the sponsors and all that, and completely money driven. But yeah, I mean, I agree with both points, and I think, and going forward, whether they make any more changes, to further, keep, the top level drivers out of those series, who knows? But I from my personal standpoint, I enjoy watching the Xfinity races. I don't get to watch too many truck races, but I think the Xfinity races are just as exciting, if not more exciting, than the Cup races, because you got guys that are trying to get to that next level and make a name for themselves and pushing their cars to the limits, and just making really impressive moves on the racetrack. I loved watching the Xfinity Series when Chase Elliott was in it. I thought he was an awesome driver, and I couldn't wait for him to get into the Cup Series. And I watched the Xfinity races all the time, just to see how he was going to do, and it was a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
I think moving up, all these other guys moving up, you're going to see a lot more of that. And I know some people just watch it for the Cup guys, but I think a lot of people watch it because it's exciting.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot more restrictions on the Xfinity cars from NASCAR standpoint. Like the rule book for those cars is probably twice as thick as a Cup car, and I, it just makes the competition that much more close and exciting. I think some of the best races I've ever seen have come from the Xfinity series. So I don't. But maybe they need to make some more changes to the Cup car.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they will.
Make the racing more exciting there, rather than implementing stupid stage things and that kind of stuff.
Yep. So I guess we'll see what happens, in the next 11 races, next 11 wins from Kyle Busch, and see what happens from there. But yeah, definitely pretty impressive. But moving on, guys, we got let's talk a little bit about the Kyle and Martin Truex crash last week at Indy. Pretty bad crash. Took out both of the leaders, and the fire suppression system in Truex's car completely extinguished the fire. He got out of there safely. Can't really say enough about the safety improvements NASCAR's made to these cars over the past 10 years or so. Very impressive how everything comes together and works. Kudos to NASCAR. They're doing a great job as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, there was some wicked flames coming out of there too, and I believe they said it's mandatory that you have to have two suppression systems inside each car, and to see it really do its job, it was really good because somebody was talking about it and they said, yeah, it's a good thing they put it in there, and they were like, no, it's mandatory that there's two fire suppression systems in there. And how many times have we seen, even when Eric Almirola got in that bad crash and hurt his back, the flames that were all involved around in Logano's car and Danica Patrick. I mean, so it's kind of a good thing.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that, like, after that accident, they said that the fire suppression system under the hood in the engine compartment is an automatic system. I didn't know that. It was kind of interesting to know that, I guess, once it reaches a certain temperature, I guess I don't know, basically it would trigger something and, work the fire suppression system. And then there's the in-cockpit one, which they can control and pull if necessary. So I think it's really good if you think about it. Like, if someone wrecks, has some kind of major deal where, like Eric Almirola couldn't get out of the car on his own, to have an automatic system on board, I think that's pretty wild, and it's just something that you wouldn't normally think about that they did, and I guess it speaks volumes for the safety of the sport, I guess.
Yep, under the hood and in the trunk area are completely, automatically controlled by heat. So, and then the driver has the option of pulling the one inside the car, and there's two separate systems that feed all three. It's just how they're set off is according to how the wreck happens, I guess. But pretty impressive, man. I mean, if you think back to even 2005, 2004, they didn't have any of that stuff. Or I mean, they might have had some kind of fire suppression system, but it wasn't anything to that extent. And the safety aspect of it definitely wasn't what it is now. So it's pretty awesome. So next up, guys, Target. I was kind of surprised about this when I read it, but Target is going to be off of Kyle Larson's car at the end of this season. I kind of think that, I mean, I understand it's probably financial for sure why they're leaving, but I think this kid's really starting to come around now, and he's really kind of in his groove, and I think great things are going to come with Kyle Larson, and kind of a shame they're leaving, but sure he'll get a good sponsor back on that car, and he'll be all right. But kind of upsetting to see that.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, actually. I mean, that's a very large company, obviously, to be a full-time sponsor like that. And I'm sure it's, like you said, financial, and I'm sure there's many other substantial companies that will jump at the opportunity to put their name on that car, because it just seems odd to me that he seems to be like coming into the height of his career, and to have your primary sponsor back out, it's kind of odd.
Yeah, it is. And if you read further, they talk about other big name companies that have backed out of the sport: Home Depot, Dollar General, GoDaddy, branches of the U.S. military, um, and even Hendrick signed short-term contracts with Nationwide and Lowe's. And of course, Lowe's, being on Jimmy Johnson's car, which is he's a seven-time champion, won I don't even know how many races. I mean, it's got to be what close to a 90 now in the Cup Series, around there. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm sure Joe knows.
I don't actually.
Okay.
I think Adam would know. Adam is the 48 man here.
How many wins does Jimmy have?
Yeah.
83.
83. Okay, so he's getting he's got a lot of wins, and it's just amazing for me to see that Lowe's signed a short-term extension. So it kind of goes to show you that maybe some of these companies are, they might be, in a little bit of a financial bind too, and not willing to sign long-term extensions and put out that kind of money that they used to put out 5-10 years ago. So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of scary to see big name companies come and go like that, but you got to think that just more companies are going to come in and take over. But I don't know, guys. It's kind of scary right now.
Well, you ever see what it costs for a sponsorship? For some of these teams, and money's tight. I know. I don't want to get into other stuff, but Target's stocks have dropped quite a bit the last year, with all the things that were going on with Target being in the spotlight with a bunch of different things. And I know a lot of these other companies too. That bottom dollar, man, is a big thing. And to sponsor a major team, a NASCAR team too, I mean, you're looking at millions of dollars, man. That's a lot of money to try and justify.
Yeah, I mean, from a car owner standpoint, it costs, I think, between $10 and $14 million a season just for tires. So it's the teams kind of, they suck up a lot of resources basically, and I'm sure. I mean, that's why you've seen teams throughout the years come and go. It's a very financially demanding sport, but I wonder if maybe in the future that, like, seeing some of these big name companies back out like they are. And I know that NASCAR is a huge financial industry, but maybe it could be a turning point for NASCAR, because I feel like, years ago it was, I don't know the best way to describe it. Like, people found common ground with the drivers, like that they were down to earth, and they didn't make a ton of money doing it. And I don't know, it would be kind of cool to see it transition back to that.
Yeah, I
Not
agree.
not that it probably will, because they've been used to making millions for so long, but I think it would be nice.
It's all about the dollar, that's for sure. So it's going to be interesting, coming up to see, next year, how, all these, big teams and stuff like that. What happens with them? What kind of sponsors come on board? What sponsors leave after this season? So definitely going to be a shakeup. The silly season's really starting to get silly. And speaking of silly seasons, Alex Bowman was announced to drive the '88 next year, which I'm not overly surprised about this, because I think Alex Bowman was put in the car last year for reasons. I'm sure there's a lot of inside on the fact that Dale Jr. was thinking about retiring. I'm sure he didn't just say it 2 weeks before it was announced. I'm sure it's a process, but. Alex Bowman's a good fit for that car, in my opinion. He almost won, I believe, Phoenix last year. He's a good up-and-comer, and I definitely think he's going to fit the 88 well next year. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Did you hear the interview with Bowman?
No, I missed that one.
He was saying that because Dale Jr. Really pushed for him to be in the car when Dale had to take the time off, for the concussion and all. And then same thing when it came time to replace somebody in that car, that Dale Jr. was a big fighter in his corner, wanting him to get inside that car. And I guess, Dale had a lot to do with Bowman, obviously, from the beginning. And, I thought that was pretty interesting that, he fought for him to go in because, Bowman's not anybody, big name just yet. We don't know what the future holds for him. I mean, he could be the next superstar for all we know. But, I thought it was a pretty interesting interview with Bowman about, Junior fighting for him to get inside that car because of all the rumors about Kenseth maybe going in there and somebody else, too, they were talking about going in there. And, I thought it was pretty interesting, man. I think he'll do pretty good. The interview was real good. He was very, said, he was nervous the first time going in, sitting in for Dale when he was out for that time, but it kind of adapted him a little bit more to it, got him a little bit more used to the car and the team. He said they have a real good camaraderie between him and the team. And then now knowing he's going back in full time, he said the pressure's off him to fight for a spot. Now he's got the spot. Now he wants to take that spot and move it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, he raced in a Cup Series a few years back, but he ran for one of the underfunded teams, and I don't think he ever really had an opportunity to showcase his talents because he was just in a car that couldn't do it. And I think he proved very well last year that he could do it in a good car, and he actually works at Hendrick. He runs the Chevy simulator. I think he's been doing that for the last.
They used to call him the simulator man.
Yeah. So they say it wasn't really a difficult decision to put him in there because of his work he's done there. But I think that I don't know. There was a lot up in the air, and I think they were just trying to look at all the options. And I don't know. I'm pretty happy to see him get a good opportunity.
Yeah, and Dale Jr. I mean, yes, he's not the greatest race car driver ever. I mean, that's been proven. But Dale Jr. I think, in my opinion, is very good at putting these kind of deals together. You think Dale Jr., you think Brad Keselowski, you think Martin Truex, and Chase Elliott. And those are all guys that Dale Jr. helped get going in this sport, and the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, they've all been impressive. So I think Dale Jr. has a really good knack for knowing who belongs where and placing people. So I think Alex Bowman's going to be awesome, and I look forward to seeing him run in the 88 next year, for sure. Well, talking about Dale Jr., it was also announced that he will be in the NBC Sports booth in 2018. I don't know why it surprised me. I guess it surprised me because I don't think Dale Jr. is very good behind a camera, but they did put him, in there earlier in the year, and I was kind of I was wondering why would they put him up in the booth? And when he was running, he was up in the booth those couple of races there when he was out with his injury, and man, I tell you what, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how Dale Jr. does behind the camera, but I know he's terrible with interviews, so I'm a little nervous about that, but we'll see what happens.
I think if they would have done it 10 years ago, I think that he wouldn't have been very good at it. he wasn't the most outspoken person on the planet, and there's some funny clips along the way of interviews and stuff, but
Oh yeah.
I think that once he met Amy, that it really changed him on that perspective. That he's more open and he talks more, he talks better, in my opinion. So I think it'll be kind of cool to see him in there and just a different person's perspective, basically, of what's going on out there.
I think it's good that it's a driver going up there. Same thing even when Jeff Gordon, they brought him up in the booth because you get to see they have knowledge of what they're talking about instead of just putting somebody there that likes racing. Well, yeah, anybody can talk about racing, but they can't give you a driver's perspective. I think from that point of view, and I agree with Joe. I've watched Dale over the last 2 years really seem to open up and become more personable and not so hidden from the public. Seems to be putting himself out there, not really afraid to make a fool out of himself or doing something kind of crazy. So I think once he gets into the gear of it, I think it's going to be really good. And I believe, like he's the most popular driver. There's going to be tons and tons of TV viewers because they're going to want to hear what Dale has to say. So I think it's definitely a win-win situation, for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it'll be good for the company too, NBC, and all that, and it'll definitely help with the ratings, I'm sure. So, people want to see Dale Jr. involved in the sport, and what better way to do it than that? So, that being said, I wish him the best of luck, and hopefully it turns out well for him. So, he'll be involved with that. He'll still have his team. You can only imagine that eventually, that might work into the Cup Series too. So, pretty cool. So we'll see what happens there. We got another thing too is Ryan Blaney is going to be making the move to Penske as a third team next year to join them. So that's going to be interesting. Paul Menard will be taking over the 21, and we're not sure about Ty Dillon yet. We're assuming he'll probably go to his grandfather's team, but we'll see what happens there. But speaking of the 21, I don't know if Paul Menard's the best fit for the 21 car, because Paul Menard's kind of a seasoned veteran now, and Paul Menard really doesn't run that well. And I think you really need somebody to run, that's just a go-getter to be in that 21 car, like Ryan Blaney is, or a good, solid rookie that is definitely showing his talent. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what happens here going forward. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
He's not a bad driver. I think that RCR really holds some drivers back, like Kevin Harvick as an example. I know he won some races over there, but when he left, he did great. Clint Boyer left. He's doing good now. One of the biggest things I'm interested about is I saw Ryan Blaney kind of heading towards Penske because of the alliance and everything, but I wonder if with Paul Menard filling the 21 car, if they will keep the Penske alliance, and if they do, how will that affect him? Will he be able to perform better than we anticipate?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see going forward. I've never been a Paul Menard fan, and to me, he's just never really been that impressive, and he's always been in decent equipment, and he's got a good sponsor, and I guess we'll see what happens. But the 21 car that's a good team. They've proven that with putting Ryan Blaney in there. They've had a little bit of success in the past, before him. So, and then of course back when the Wood brothers were on fire basically years ago. But it's definitely, there's going to be a lot of changes in 2018, so it's really exciting to see all this come together. And I think it's good for Penske to have a 3-car team. 2-car teams are okay, and a 1-car team's okay, but 3 cars, you're sharing, another team's worth of information. So definitely think Penske is going to be the big beneficiary from that move, especially Brian Blaney.
Yeah, I kind of expect the 12 car next year to be probably the better of the 3 teams, really, just because of, I mean, Ryan Blaney's young. He's proven that he has a lot of talent, and I think he's bringing his crew chief along with him, so I think we'll see a lot of the same stuff next year. And he's already, I mean, he runs just as good as the other guys anyway, so to bring him in-house and do it there, and I'm sure it'll be a different feel for him, but I think he'll do very well next year.
So a little bit more of the uncertainty out of the Hendrick camp. Casey and Rick Hendrick unsure about 2018. Not sure if this interview came before Casey's win or not, but nevertheless, Casey got a win.
It was after.
Okay, it was after. So, even so, they're unsure about sponsorship at this point, because Farmers is, I think, no, I don't think. See, Farmers isn't coming out for 2018. Neither is Great Clips. So that leaves Nationwide for a short-term contract, which would only run a certain amount of races. So they're still looking for a primary sponsor for Casey. Kind of interested to see what happens there. Casey Kane's good talent, but kind of like what Joe was saying a little while ago, sometimes good drivers get caught in bad situations. Even if they're part of a good team, they need a change. So I think Casey Kane needs a change. He needs to get out of there. Even though you would think leaving Rick Hendricks a bad move, I think if you put Casey Kane in another good tier racing team, I think he would excel. But he needs that change for sure. It's been too long. 1 win out of how many years is not enough. Definitely got to see a change for him.
Yeah, it's not enough for a sponsor to want to hang on. If they do keep him, I hope they do some kind of a change between crew chief or something, and maybe get him, a little bit more connected, because I don't think there's a great big connection there, because they just can't seem, he'll start off some races really good, and then they'll fade off, or they'll just be in the back and stay in the back. So it's kind of rough, and it's probably sucks because right now there's not a whole lot of rides out there. So if Casey doesn't, re-sign with them, where's he going to go, man? Unless somebody's willing to put on another car, another team,
Come on, Joe. Where's Casey going? I know you know.
Dirt track racing. He's going to run a sprint cars.
Well, yeah, we know that. He's got a team over there, and he's pretty fired up, but I don't know.
Honestly. There's really not an abundance of places that he could go, to be honest. And it sucks to say it, but I feel a lot more capable younger guys that could come in and probably outperform him. So, that's just a tough one all the way around.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be interesting. 2018 is going to be a crazy season, I think, with there's a lot of changes this year, guys. It's amazing to see all this happening. But, and it seems like after the Dale Jr. Retirement announcement, it's like all this stuff kind of like blew up all at once. So definitely going to be pretty interesting. Brad Keselowski signs a multi-year contract with Penske, which, we kind of knew that was going to happen. Brad's a good fit over there. He runs well. He doesn't win every week, but he's always in contention. He's always running up front, always knocking on the door of a win, and does win. So that was no surprise there that the sponsor and, the team came together and made a joint decision there. And, he's good with them for a few years. So pretty cool there. Guys, Paul, let's talk about what's coming up this week in SoMo.
All right. Well, we got Tuesday night in the Portside Jaguar and Land Rover Truck Series. They're going to be at Indianapolis, which is kind of funny because, we just were at Indianapolis in the Xfinity and in the Cup. But we're going back there in the truck now for 55 laps, and that's going to be on here live at 8:45 on SR Broadcasting. and should be a pretty good race. You know, the trucks are a lot of fun. They're a little bit easier to handle, so I expect to see a lot of side-by-side racing, a lot of hard racing. So you know, that should be pretty decent. Getting closer to the chase, you know, guys that are locked in are pretty set, but there's a few guys that are close to the bubble. So you know, it's time to step up. You know. Wednesday night in the Lazy Days Racing Xfinity Series is going to be Watkins Glen. They'll be doing 45 laps and at the Glen, and it's pretty cool in the Xfinity car. You know, they're a lot more. Seem like they're a lot more easier to manage through the Glen than the Cup cars. But the guys that do run Wednesday and Thursday night, they're going to have some experience from Wednesday night going back into the Lazy Days Racing Cup Series at Watkins Glen, and they'll be doing 65 laps there on Thursday night, and Tuesday night and Wednesday night will be live here on SR Broadcasting, and then Thursday night we'll be live on PBR. Man, I just got PBR Broadcasting, and they'll be at 8:45, and should be pretty good. PBR does a lot of good stuff, got a lot of information on the drivers and all, and you know, we're also here working on SoMo, a couple of different things. You know, we introduced the minimum speed rule, so we're trying to, you know, keep on top of that to avoid some collisions and stuff that don't need to be. We're also looking to you know, bring some more driver information to you. People have said that they want to know more about the drivers, so we're going to see if we get drivers interested in giving us kind of a little bit of a bio we can pull up when we pull up a driver on the track. We're going to start now talking to drivers that got wrecked out, that are in the garage, or, you know, getting their cars repaired, getting ready to get back out on the track. So we're going to try to bring a little bit more to the viewer and, you know, get a little bit more connection with the viewer. So hopefully that all works out pretty good. We got, you know, things moving forward here.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun week coming up, for sure. So we'll see what happens. You know, that's a lot of racing, especially 55 laps at Indy in the trucks. That's gonna be a fairly long race for sure. So I wish I could be part of that, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it this week. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Watkins Glen's gonna be interesting for sure. I think it'll be pretty fun in the Xfinity car. I'm not sure about the Cup car, but we'll see.
I just wish we could run them with cautions and be able to control the cautions. You know what I mean? Like how we used to do over in R Factor. You know, you can pull a caution, but then you can, you know, clear it like a lap later instead of having it run its full time. Because you know, at the Watkins Glen tracks, and even at Indy, I'm sure in the trucks, things are going to get spread out, and at Watkins Glen, without having cautions to gather the field back up, it's kind of an unfair advantage sometimes to the guys that do get out front and get to go. We were questioned if we were going to throw cautions in between or not, and I'm not really for it. I think I'm just going to let it play out the way it plays out, because the last time we threw a caution, that restart caused a lot of drivers to end their night early. So but I just wish there was a better way to control the cautions so we can actually run it with a caution. And then, you know, once everybody gathers up, gets their pits done or whatever, we can clear it and come green that next time around.
Yeah. Well, hopefully in the future that's something they can add in, you know, because that would make it a lot easier. Cautions, you know, at those tracks are miserable. So, you know, like you said, it'd be nice. Hopefully someday they can implement that in, and, you know, I mean, you know, they keep on making improvements, so they're just few and far between.
Yeah, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. Anyways, guys, as always, it was a pleasure, and looking forward to racing this week, and we'll catch you guys next week. Have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.